Many students throughout the generation have found writing difficult. Even professional writers often describe the process as painful when confronted with dry sources, writer's block, and the vicious editing process. Many writers and teachers say that writing is simple. You just sit down, open up a vein, and bleed. So many writers have uttered similar ideas that we cannot even decide who said it first. Writing, though, can really be very easy when one follows some simple rules. Do your research, plan an outline, focus on a thesis, use quotes to prove your ideas, cite the sources, create a short conclusion, and avoid passive language. All of these will be explained in detail over the next few minutes. Your writing should be clear, strong, and easy to read if you follow the advice given here. Students are often most frustrated when they try to write too soon, which means that they sit down to type something without knowing what they want to say or prove. Writing without a plan is a recipe for disaster. Very few people can create an essay in their mind and type it into a screen at the same time, and most people who try this end up spending a lot of time accomplishing very little. Eventually, their main goal goes from writing a good essay to simply fulfilling the minimum length that the teacher demanded. In the end, many just want to finish the assignment because it has become so difficult. The slow progress begins to feel like a kind of torture as they watch the cursor on their screen blink at them again and again and again, while their mind starts to wander from the essay they should be writing to something they would rather be doing. Students' ability to distract themselves is a bottomless hole that they can prevent themselves from falling into by simply doing their research and making a plan. In my discipline, history, the vast amount of work that goes into an essay lies in doing the research needed to learn about a topic. This includes deciding on topic, finding books, articles, and other scholarly resources, actually reading all of that material, taking notes on the main ideas discussed, and figuring out how the ideas relate to each other. That part alone can take many days, so about 90% of the work on essays in my discipline is taken up by basic research. Students that try to write an essay without doing the basic research set themselves up for a painful experience and often a low grade. Once you have learned a good amount about your topic, the next step is to plan your essay. What are you most interested in? Were any controversies expressed in the sources you read? Did the writers argue about anything? You should develop a plan despite which type of essay you want to write. I normally do this by creating an outline. The outline should contain a thesis statement that clearly says what the essay will focus on or prove, a few main points that will be the bulk of the essay, and proof for each main point. Quotes are the most frequent form of proof in my discipline. One of the great tricks in writing is to plan out which quotes you want to use to prove each point, and to actually type them into your outline. This will allow you to simply copy and paste quotes into your paragraphs as you write, saving you the hassle of looking up quotes and page numbers while you are typing a paragraph. A finished outline should look something like this: a clear, short thesis statement that reveals the essay's main points, each main point given in a simple statement, and each quote to be used as evidence listed under each main point. Now you are ready to begin typing your essay. Remember that you should have spent a great amount of time so far in research and planning, so the actual typing should be pretty easy and should feel as if it flows quickly. The first paragraph should contain some background information on the general topic. What is the topic? Why is it interesting? Why is it important to know about? Etc. The thesis statement is by far the first paragraph's most important part. A thesis usually appears toward the end of the paragraph and is important because it tells the reader exactly what to expect in the rest of the essay. The thesis should give a short list of the main points in each body paragraph that follows. Think of the thesis as a freeway sign that tells you which exits are coming up and in what order. The thesis says we will discuss first this, then that, and the other last. Or it is important to know that A, B, and C are going to happen in the next few pages. The thesis should really be that short, just one short sentence that tells the reader what to expect. As practice, write a one-sentence thesis on the topic you have chosen for your essay. Remember to include the main points you want the essay to discuss. Of course, the key to a strong thesis is that the rest of the essay actually follows that plan. Each main point in the essay should lead to one paragraph. One easy way to do this is to copy the main point from the thesis and turn it into the first sentence of a paragraph. These paragraphs are often called body paragraphs in writing classes. Even these paragraphs have their own internal formula that many new writers should follow. A body paragraph is simple. It first makes a statement, usually similar to what was described in the thesis, then quotes a reliable source, and finally explains how the quote proves the statement's accuracy. Strong paragraphs have these three sections, and paragraphs are severely weakened when any of these three sections is missing. For example, imagine that you are on trial for murder. You need a lawyer, so you hold tryouts for lawyers who want to take your case and defend you in court. 3 lawyers attend the tryout, and each gets to demonstrate what they plan to do in court to convince the jury you are innocent. The first lawyer stands up and says, "Men and women of the jury, my client is innocent," and sits down without another word. Will you hire that lawyer? No. Why not? Because they gave a statement of innocence, but they did not offer any proof for why the jury should believe you're innocent. The second lawyer stands up and says, "My client is innocent because fingerprints found at the scene prove that the killer is right-handed and wears a size 14 shoe." Better, but do you want that lawyer? No. Why not? Because that statement gave evidence but no direct link that shows how the evidence proves your innocence. The last lawyer stands up and says, "My client is innocent because he is left-handed and wears a size 10 shoe, while fingerprints found at the scene prove that the killer is right-handed and wears a size 14 shoe. Therefore, the evidence proves that my client is not the killer." This last lawyer is clearly best because they gave the statement of innocence, supplied some evidence to support the statement, and then clearly explained how the evidence is linked to your innocence. That is what paragraphs need to give: a clear statement, reliable evidence, and an explanation of how the evidence proves the statement. Be sure to include all 3 sections in each body paragraph you write. To practice, take a minute or so to read the following 3 sections. Which is the statement, which is the evidence, and which is the explanation? Put them in logical order according to how paragraphs should be structured. Here's the answer. For even better practice, write one of the body paragraphs that you plan to use in your essay. Remember to begin with the statement, use evidence, and explain how the evidence proves the statement. Always remember that quotes should never begin or end a paragraph. A quote cannot begin a paragraph because you, the writer, have not even made a statement yet. What can a quote prove if there is no opening statement? Using a quote to start a paragraph would be like a lawyer in court saying that the police found fingerprints but nobody knows what the fingerprints prove. Demand your innocence first, then use fingerprints to prove it. The same goes with paragraphs. Make your statement first, then present the quote to prove the statement. Quotes should not be used to end paragraphs either. Ending a paragraph with a quote simply gives evidence without any explanation, just as the second lawyer did in our example. Make sure that the jury understands how the fingerprints prove your innocence, or else you could be in very deep trouble. Paragraphs need to explain how quotes and other evidence is important. Remember that all quotes and other forms of evidence need to be cited. Citations need to appear at the end of a sentence after punctuation in the quotation marks. There are several different ways to cite sources. MLA is perhaps the easiest and is used in most subjects. MLA uses parenthetical citations, which means the information appears between parentheses after the quote, like this. MLA citations are often easiest because they use so little information from the source, often only the author's last name and page number. Other citation styles require you to insert a small number after the quotation mark. Endnotes use that small number to match that citation to information on the source listed at the end of the essay, sometimes on a separate page. To create an endnote, go to the end of the quote, click on Review, and then click on Insert Endnote. The number should pop up automatically. Here we see the quote with a small number at the end, which corresponds to a number on the Works Cited page. Again, the number 2 at the end of another quote leads us to the source information listed in number 2 on the Works Cited page. Using footnotes is a bit trickier. You still add your small number at the end of the quote, but make sure to click on the Insert Footnote option. This will divide your essay into 2 pieces. You will see the main text at the top with a small section at the bottom where you will type in the source's information. Again, the small footnote numbers correspond. Most recent typing systems automatically put the numbers in order and will alter the numbers when you add or delete footnotes. You don't have to worry about the numbers staying in order. Most typing programs will do that for you. The main difference between endnotes and footnotes is that endnotes list their information at the essay's end, often on a separate page, while footnotes list the information at the bottom or foot of the same page where the quote appears. History teachers and other social sciences will often prefer footnotes for citations. Whichever citation system you use, make sure to use it consistently throughout your essay. Use the same system for all of your citations. The last major piece of your essay will be to write a conclusion. Conclusions are easy to write because you have already done most of the work. Conclusions are simple and fast summaries of the main points that the essay discussed and proved. Conclusions and introductions mostly focus on the thesis statement, so conclusions and introductions often look very similar. Your essay is now done. Proofreading it for typing or spelling errors is the final step. Also make sure that all the major pieces of the essay are included and in order: thesis, paragraph structure, statement, quote, and explanation, citations, and conclusion. If you have time, put the essay away for 2 or 3 days and work on other assignments. Return to it after a few days and read it again. One of the major problems in spending so much time on research, planning, and writing is that we sometimes get so deep into our topic that we overlook simple mistakes that a first-time reader can easily catch. You can help yourself become that first-time reader by returning to the essay after a few days. This can help you to be a stronger, more objective editor of your own work. Look for 2 more specific things in editing your essay: passive language and tense. Passive language occurs when we weaken a sentence by flipping it around and putting the action in the wrong place. For example, the marathon was won by Jose. This is a passive statement because it puts the object, marathon, and the action, won, before the actor, Jose. We can rewrite this statement to make it active by putting the actor first, the action second, and the object third. Jose won the marathon. Which statement is easier to understand? Jose won the marathon is shorter and to the point. Passive statements can be very complex and difficult to understand because they get too long and use lots of breaks because their ideas are out of order. We often use passive language in our everyday speech, so it is a major problem when teaching people to write. Even that is a passive statement. Why? Because it places the action at the end of the sentence and the result at the beginning. How should it be rewritten? Take a few seconds and try to rewrite the sentence to make it active. Your time is up. How did you make this into an active statement? First, we need to see that the sentence needs to be flipped where the comma occurs. The sentence should start with it, and it needs to be defined because that is our starting point. So the sentence should start with passive language. Passive language is a major problem when teaching people to write because we often use it in our everyday speech. Here, passive language is the actor and use is the action. We see that similar problems exist in the two examples we have so far used, and that those problems are solved in similar ways. The second sentence is only more complex than the first. Take a moment to try to write an example of a passive statement, what is needed to fix it, and the active result. Most students are not taught such powerful grammar in college, and even some famous researchers, writers, and professors use passive language throughout their work. Their writing may be long and poetic sounding, but it is also complex and often confusing. We learn to write strong essays in order to prove an idea quickly and powerfully, not to confuse the reader. Present tense is the last thing to look for in your essay. Again, we normally think about the world around us and our actions in the present tense, so it often sneaks into our writing. This is overlooked in some disciplines, but can be very damaging in a history essay. Remember that we discuss past events when studying, analyzing, and writing about history. These things happened. They are no longer happening. For example, I often read student essays describing where Thomas Jefferson was living while he was writing the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson is obviously not alive today. He is not doing anything. How should we change this statement? We simply need to erase the present tense and change it to past tense, where Thomas Jefferson lived while he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Let's try another. I was having some car trouble while I was driving to work this morning. Does this sound correct? What needs to be changed? We need to get rid of the present tense and replace it with past tense. I had some car trouble while I drove to work this morning. Now you try. Think of a sentence that uses present tense to describe something that happened to you. Then change the present tense to past tense. Which version sounds best when you read it? You are now strongly prepared to attack any essay assignment with confidence. Remember that writing involves much research and planning before actually typing the essay, and often involves many levels of proofreading and editing to correct mistakes. Essays often use predictable formulas including thesis statements, paragraph structure, citations, and conclusions. You must understand that writing takes practice just like all other skills. No athlete ever just walked onto a court and started hitting three-point baskets, just as no musician ever walked into a concert hall and played a song for the very first time. Their talents were honed by many hours of repetition and dedicated practice. Writing is much the same. It takes practice and resolve to master. I hope that this video has gave you a strong start from which you can build upon.